I believe personally that we live in a world of abundance. You live in a world of abundance. I live in a world of abundance. Not every citizen in the world does, but we're on the precipice of creating abundance for all 8 billion people. That's what I truly believe. And I believe democracy is critical and has been critical for creating this abundance or this flourishing of Americans, flourishing in Western Europe and throughout the world. Why is it that democracy has been so critical to creating this abundance?
You make a passionate plea for it, and I think it has a lot going for it. But there are people in this world, leaders and even countries, that have different theories about how you get communities to thrive, right? So if you look at the model in China, for example, right, you can call it communism, but largely it's state-controlled capitalism, right? And so you have a lot of restrictions, both on the business side of things as well as on individual liberties. But the bargain seems to be that, if you're able to pick up the trash, if you're able to keep the cities clean, I mean, this is the Singapore model too, right? That if you're able to provide these things, like, people don't need to vote, they don't need to decide who their leaders are. If you just provide people what they need and maintain social order, then you don't need to worry about the political system and to allow democracy to happen. So for a while.
Yeah, I don't disagree, but let me just push back a little bit, because abundance might mean affluence. And I'm really more interested in flourishing, which is you have a place to rest your head. You can go to school if you want to go to school, but you have choices around who you are, freedom to choose. I think that's a really, really important and critical part to America's success and democracy's success as opposed to China or maybe some other countries who have done well financially around the world.
Yeah, no, but I think that's where, it's good that we're like digging into what does it mean to thrive and what does it mean to flourish, right? Is it just about meeting those basic needs or even those higher end needs?
We should be beyond that. I know in 2024.
Yeah, but even say those higher end needs, some people might think of those luxuries, but what you're pointing out to is the ability to choose, right? Is a fundamental aspect of what it means to flourish, right?
Yes.
And so, yes, if that is in the definition, absolutely, you need to have a robust democracy in order for that to happen. Now, it doesn't mean, right? So even in a democratic system that we have, part of the reason why we have representative democracy is that, people might not be the best suited to decide on everything. So, for example, what should the interest rate in the United States be? It's not clear that you and I are the best situated to make that decision. But that's one of the big debates we're having we're having it to some extent. But one of the big debates we saw certainly with President Trump when he was in office is how much should you have bureaucracies that are insulated or independent of representative democracy or popular control. And that we thought that we had the answer for close to a century, right? Like we went through the Great Depression. It's like, take the punch bowl away from the politicians. Like, do not allow them the ability to manipulate interest rates, because then you're going to get to economic disaster. But now, so I think even with this note, so I think certainly having, I would say, individual freedoms, yes, but a big part of American democracy that de Tocqueville talks about is also a sense of obligation to each other. It's not just the freedoms, because if you have freedoms without any sense of obligation and commitment, right, then it just becomes a free-for-all. You don't really build a robust society when you do that.
Yeah. And democracy is a contact sport. It has to be a contact sport. There has to be responsibility. There has to be duty involved in there. It's not like watching television where it's one directional. It has to be two directional, or multi-directional.
Yeah, it is not a spectator sport, and it is not something that you cast your ballot and you're done and you just walk away.